Hi guys, Yolan here. Today we are back for another video. I'm gonna review hands I played in 2KNL on Winamax. We are going to see a lot of hands where I saw the river. Hope you will like the video and let's dive into the action directly. Okay, so first hand here you have Ace-8 suited, Villain's Call. So here's the recreational player. Let's see his stat on the odds. Okay, so yeah, not that many hands. We just know that he's not a whale, because if he was a whale with 80% VP, his VP AP would have been bigger. So yeah, probably just a fish. He bet big on this flop. We're gonna fold second pair here, strong enough to call. Turn is a queen, he needs to bet small. And here in this scenario, I see too many players folding hands like 7-8, Ace-8. You don't need to fold here. The reason why is because when he plays this way, his range will mainly be King-Jack, Ace-Jack, or if some draws like 5-6, A6 of diamond. Because if he has a stronger hands, he would have size up. A guy that is actually betting big on a flop with good hands mean that he might be scared of draws. So on the queen of heart, if he had a hand like Jack 8 or pocket 8, it would have been the perfect card to go for a big size. So when he used this size, I assume the check fold amount will be too high. Also, the second thing is a lot of runouts I can bluff because he doesn't have heart flush draw in this line super often. Also, when a 9 or 10 come on the river, you will not have that many straights. So you need to call with your rec region here because the check fold frequency here might be too high when he used this sizing. That's why I'm gonna call actually really light here in these spots, because I have too many runouts I can bluff, and I advise you to do the same in this type of scenario. The river came a 9, and when he checked, I think he doesn't have any 10x, and now we should put the maximum pressure to Ace-Jack, King-Jack. So I decided to jam here, and now when he has two pairs, he can even be in a really tough spot if he has Jack-9 for example. So I like the jam here, and he fold pretty fast, see the other hand. So we have Queen-10 off here, we open on the cutoff, big blind decided to call. The board is 6-4-5, so it's really bad board for you overall. He should have some donk bet here, but it's completely fine not to play with donk bet. You don't really have a huge incentives to do it, like the V you are gaining with a complex strategy out of position is not that high, so checking is fine. On my choose when he check, I should have a lot of checks also. I would prefer to range check this type of board as simplification, and you don't lose that much EV, especially against a population that probably prop a bit too much on this type of runout. The turn came the queen, and he decided to check, and I decided to check this one again. You can't bet all your queen-X here, and also your hand is pretty vulnerable against the check raise, so it's not that bad to check a queen here. You can also bet, probably both options are fine, decided to check this time. And the river came a 3 and decided to bet 100, and here I think my hand is a call for mainly two reasons. The first reason is I think 7x might bait the turn sometimes, and he doesn't have that many 7x. Well, he doesn't defend 9-7 off, not even 10-7 off, so he will have the 7-8 suited region, he will have the King-7, A7 suited. There's not many 7x. I don't think he'd take this sizing with Deuce-6, even if it might happen, he doesn't have too many combos of Deuce-6. So here, actually, he tell me that he's really polar and he has a lot of 7x. But in his range, in terms of combos, he doesn't have too much 7x, and even some 7x combo can dunk on the flop. So here, because the amount of bluff available is really high, even if I block some natural bluff with a 10, I don't think it's really bad here to have a 10, because when he overbluff these spots, you can have a 10, you can have 2-10 or 3-10, he will still have too many bluffs anyway. So here I call, and I'm facing against King-Jack. So if you bluff King-Jack all the time, he's probably bluffing 10-9 off, Jack-10 off, Jack-8 off, so you probably have way too many bluffs. So that's a really cool spot to aero call here, and if I will have and like Ace-King, I would have call also, because the bluffing region here is really too high, because most players would never give up with 10-9 in these spots. I see give ups in these spots in 5KNL, but I would say in 1K, 2KNL, people have this league to bluff all the time in situation where they should give up sometimes this type of bluffs. Okay, so the next hand we have pocket 8, we open, this guy 3-bet. I call, the board is Jack 9-9. It's a good board for him overall. He might have some check, especially when the board has a flush draw. In 3-bet pot, when you're out of position and the board has a flush draw, it's actually a worse scenario compared to if the board doesn't have a flush draw, because your equity will be conserved way more when there is no flush draw, and that's why you play with check on this board. Now my hand is pretty indifferent really between bet and check, and in game I decided to check. I really thought about betting, and I tried to really understand what will be the highest EV, but sometimes in game it can be really difficult to know which EV is higher. So That's why I decided to check. On the turn, he check again, now check back. And on the 7th, he decided to bet, so I already put this hand in GTO Wizard. My hand is pretty indifferent here. He will bluff a lot with the 8 clubs before, so I like to have the 8 of clubs. He doesn't have too many check bet with the 8 of hearts. It might be also easy to overbluff in his shoes, is for example if he's bluffing hands like 5 off for example, and if you bet too many trash pre-flop, because now it's again a situation where if he has king 5, queen 5 some frequency, he can't bluff them all the time because he will not have enough value in game. I decided to fold. I believed my opponent will bet too much the trash region on the turn, and I'm not expecting 1k to 2k NL to see enough king 5 suited to play as a free bet check bet. So probably a call I would have done in 5k NL, but in 1k 2k I think, especially against a guy that play lower than 1k, I don't think I should call this. And in 2k NL you have even stronger regulars than 5k NL, so against some of them I could call, but not against this one. Here we opened ace 4, small blind calls, the board is queen 7, I see bet small, he called, turn I decided to check. The plan here against the recreational players to call in the river because they just bluff way too much this line, even in the small blind. I'm saying that, but if he bets really small on the river, I will consider raising, because in general when people call, check and bet smalls there are way too many weekends, and I will gain more EV by raising on the river if you bet small. But the problem is he bets 307. And here I found this hand was interesting because it doesn't have too many bluff in his perceive region. And I'm not thinking he will really value bet a queen this size, but there is a problem. He overbets really big, and in general when fishes overbets, it's actually a stronger range. The fact that he doesn't have so many bluffs, especially if you fold the float on the flop, makes me think that it's actually better to fold in this spot. And in general, and that's why I put the end, is when you don't really know what's the best move in a situation, you can just take the most conservative option. Why? Because in average, if you take the most conservative option, it will be the option that will cost you the minimum amount of EV if you're wrong. And the problem with non-conservative option is the EV loss you can have is higher. So in average, it will be better to take the conservative option. I'm not saying you should fold all the time and become a nit. I'm just saying that sometimes calling is the best option. So for example, if you bet 1/3, I will never consider folding, because calling is the most conservative option, but sometimes folding is the most conservative option. And I think here's the case, so I'm okay with my fold here. Now we are in heads up, we have ace king off. We are against a regular on anonymous tables. So I 3-bet ace king here, he decided to call. The flop came ace 7 deuce. I'm not an heads up expert, so just who don't know, I start the game by studying heads up, but I quickly start to study 6 max no limit hold'em. If I remember correctly, ace king might bet small here, something like 120 is fine. You can probably even close to range bet here, even if I think theoretically should be more of mix, even if betting small is fine. He decided to raise here, that's pretty interesting. And I think here the range is kind of the same if you play 100 NL to 2k NL. Also be a lot of protection hands. I don't think he ever raised deuces. I don't think he ever raised a 7 suited, because he has a lot of incentives to let me barrel in like jack 10 for example. The only reason for this play is, for example, if I'm actually never free barreling bluffs, then he has incentives to raise, to value my kings, queens, jacks region, and to value the a6 region. This will be the only reason why he do this play. But we're in 2k NL in an anonymous table, I don't think he will do that with his value region. So I think it's mainly a6 or protection end like 7-6, 7-5, 7-9, king deuce, this type of hands. And again, this range you have actually two strategies here. You can click or you can call. The click here is to make it simple, have the initiative again and put the protection raise. Here I decided to call because I thought that when I raised I would make him fold too much, whereas if I call and lead the turn, that will be easier for me. So why I'm leading the turn here? Because if you see the equity of my range and the equity of his range and how the ranges are constructed, I have the netted region that he doesn't have. It's not because he raised me on the flop that you can't lead here. And theoretically this spot is lead sometimes. I will consider leading all the time. And the main reason is because in an anonymous table, I'll try to make what I think is the most profitable option. And here, I don't see enough people putting money with king 5 suited anymore. I don't think people raise king 5 on the flop, bet the turn, and jam the river. I don't see this happening enough in 1k, 2k NL. So I decided to take the leads just to target the ends like a6 or even king deuce, queen deuce, 7-6 that might have equity against me. And retrospectively, I discussed this hand with also ace-takes players, and one option I considered that I didn't do, but after in retrospectively I found this interesting, is to jam on the turn. Why? Because if he has king 5, he's gonna fold, and if he has a 7, when I jam, I actually don't represent that many value hands. And because I think he mainly have a pair when he does that, I can actually make call a pair on the turn, because when I jam, I represent hands like queen 10 of spade, king 10 of spade, king queen of spade. I might have a lot of bluffs, and I don't have any value hands usually when I do that. It's pretty weird to do that with a value hand. So if I jam and he calls 7, that's actually really great for me. And that's why I think retrospectively, even if it sounds really weird, I think exploratively that's the best option given like how his range is constructed. He decided to call, and on the river, on the free, I think he should just jam here. I think his range is really mainly a deuce or 7 now at this point. I jam, he decided to call, and he did a mistake here. He called me with 7-8, which is a call in theory. And I don't mind his call, I will have bluffs here. The reason why I don't like his call is because I can't show you in the replayer, but he called in less than 1 second. And that's a big mistake, because you should always think about your decision on the river. And believe me, this advice of thinking about every decision you are doing more than 10 seconds is the most single important advice I will give you in this video. You can take this, don't even watch the video, it will be 100 times useful. And why it's really important? It's for 2 reasons. The first reason is, if you take more time on the short run, your decision will be better. Because if I let you 1 second to decide, your decision will be less qualitative than if you have 20 seconds, for example. So on the short run, you make better decision. But if you make better decision on the short run, what will happen in the long run? You will be a better poker player, maybe you will have more, so you will play higher, so you will improve more, and you will take better decision. So you win on the short run, and you also win on the long run. And that's really important. I see too many players snap calling, snap folding, snap raising every decision, and that's really bad, and you should consider thinking all your decisions. So now if you play too many tables, you should reduce the number of tables. I don't think 12 table is a good number to improve at poker. If your goal is just to make money and not improve, play 12 table. But if you want to improve, it's really important to play a lower amount of tables. So no need to be as strict as me and play like only 4 tables maximum. But you can restrict yourself at 6 or even 8, being for me the absolute maximum. That's it for this set. So we have ace-3 off here. Okay, not really interesting. Just jam with against the short stack. 6-9 off here. I decided to call. Okay, check. Bet the turn against a recreational player. I bet the river. He called with an 8. Not really interesting. Ace-king, I decided to free bet. This guy call. The board is jack 7-4. I decided to go for a small bet against a shallow stack. So I remember this hand. I really thought about it on the flop. And it's a really complicated hand. I will put in blinds so this will be easier for you. Yeah, this is a really complicated hand actually, because you might think it's okay, we have ace king, we can just jam and yeah, let's go and let's try to make full hands. But the hands I'm gonna making fold are hands that doesn't have too many equity. And this type of hands I will make fold, for example like ace 5, actually I beat ace 5. If I touch an ace, I'll take everything. And he only has 1 out. So the only hands that actually have multiple outs against me are draws. And they're gonna jam and I'm going to call anyway. So I thought it was interesting to make full hands like queen 10 and being called by hands like king 10, king 9. And I think we are not at the SPR where I can make fold a single worse hand than mine. So if we are playing a bit deeper, I will consider jump. But here I just want to size an hand that may call the dominated hand here. I think my size is too small. I did a mistake. I think 3.9 here or 4 is way better. And if it allows him to call with hands like a 6 will be great. But here I did a mistake in my sizing, unfortunately. On the 5, again, the region I'm jamming against and folds are a region that might jump from himself, or that doesn't have too many equity now, because except queen 10, queen 9, queen 8, all his hands are dominated. So I prefer just to check here and let the worst region jam. And if you jam, pretty easy call. I think a 7 or a jack will have jam on the flop, and he had 10 8. So in this hand we can jam the flop. It doesn't change anything. But yeah, that's how I play this hand. Okay, king queen suited here, I 3-bet, this guy 4-bet, I call. I don't think it's the same. So I called the 4-bet against button, the board now is king deuce deuce. He decided to bet 1/4. And here I see too many players calling with this type of hands, but actually it's a raise. The reason why it's a raise, because on king deuce deuce, if he has ace king, I lost. Okay, I'm gonna lose my stack anyway. So what you want to do is put his queens, jacks, tens region in your top spots. So when you have ranges where you don't be the top of the range, you are at the low SPR, and a big part of the small bet region or hands you can put in the top spots, you're gonna have a raising range. And here the bluffs are coming from ace queen, pocket sixes, pocket sevens, and I decided to raise with this hand. In terms of sizing, I think you can click here. I think 27 is fine, but here you should definitely have a raise region, especially against the pool. So now, exploitatively, if you play lower stakes, I will not consider people to free barrel enough on king deuce deuce in the 4-bet pot, but only against small blind, depending on the stakes, and of course depending on the player. So what I will consider to do here is, with my value region, I will either min raise, or I will just call and lead. Because the reason is, when you actually call and lead the turn, and they call, and they bluff jam the river when you check, they don't have any value end. They don't have any bluffs, so you can fold, and you just took the money out of queens, jacks, tens that will just check back on the turn. That is fine line in value, and in bluff you can probably play this as a check call and bluff the river when he checks too. I think this will be more efficient. And again, I'm talking only if you play lower stakes against people that you don't know. If you know the people, you can also do that, but be careful not to get exploited if you do this all the time. Strike raise, he call. So I check on the turn, which is a mistake. This hand should always bet theoretically. Again, I think in practice it's fine to check, and I would prefer to play my bluffs and my value as a full check on the turn, actually, because it looked a bad card in game, and if he do the mistakes of betting a king or aces too much on the turn, he can just fold my bluffs, and on the river I can just bluff when he check the turn with my weaker regions to put queens, jack 10 in the top spot. So here the queen, you block the queen x at my call, so it's more of a check, but I think in game you wouldn't call too many queen x anyway. So I just need to jam and try to make calls, and it's like jacks, tens, and nines. The reason why I jam is because I think great players often plays the bluffs in the betting line on the turn. So I think he will bet the turn faster with his bluff. And also the reason why I jam is because I remember he played pretty fast. Should have probably more table. And when people play really fast in these spots, it's actually more ends like jacks have an easy check back, or in like a king. So we chop anyway. So that's why I decided to jam, and he called me with okay, because I think when he has a bluff, he would have think more about it. So I don't have any interest to play this and like this. We might probably think about a small bet here, like betting 10 or 12. If we'll put jacks, tens in really, really tough spots. So I just jam in game, and he called me with king jack off. And with okay, 10-6 off. I decided to call against a recreational player. I would have fold against a regular. On this flop, we should raise here. You don't need to raise a big amount. You want to get called by the 1 hurt region here on the turn. And now the 10 is pretty interesting. It's not because you have full that you should check. And here, the range at 4 are going to check anyway. Ace-jack, king-queen, for example. So I just want to take money out of draws or 5x or pocket pairs. So that's why I decided to bet this size. And on the river here, now I think we should jam. So when you don't know in the spots between jamming and slow playing, you should jam. Because in average, that will be the best option. And a lot of times, checking here might be a terrible mistake, because they can just jam draws on the flop, so they don't have too many on the river. And you just check against a jack or 10 or 5, and that will be disastrous, because when there are a lot of draws, many people can call more. So I think we should always jam here. And as you see, I did 4 blinds on the turn. The reason is because I wanted the pot to be over 20, and this guy have 22 blinds, but retrospectively I think it works better if I size 4.9, and he shouldn't fold any ends against this size compared to 4 blinds. So I will prefer to size up here. I think I did a mistake. Here if you bet big blind against button, against a regular, the board is 4-8-4. In this type of board, you can play 2 strategy. You can play half pot or 3/4. This hand is often check. This time he decided to go for 3/4 sizing. He called. Turn is a queen, and he decided to bet small. I call, and on the river to bet again, and I call. And here in these spots, the only thing I would say is you need to be careful against who you're playing. Because it's super easy for him to have zero bluff. Why? Because when he has 5-6, for example, he might just check the turn and want you to bet your value and attack your give up region on the river. And if he does that, he has no bluffs anymore. And if he has no bluff anymore, I lose all the bets he's doing on the river and my EV is terrible. So you need to know enough that Yolan is capable of bluffing the spots, and you should start making for that Terry is not doing. And here at these spots, I thought that my opponent might find enough bluffs. Yeah, maybe that's the case. But actually, after that, I saw his style of playing, and I think he's just not bluffing the spots because he put his air region too much in check back turn. So my call is actually terrible, and you might even play stakes. You might even play 100k NL. If he doesn't bluff enough the river, you're going to lose money anyway. And you should be surprised on how even a stakes player are unbalanced completely. Because if you put one player, for example, in a spot, and you ask him what's his range in these spots, combos per combos, and I did it already with friends, you will see that nobody's close to GTO even. People have imbalances all the time, and it's really important to think a lot in hands about it to know where ours. And so that's a bad call actually, unfortunately. And this time I lose against a 4. Probably not a bad call at the time because I didn't knew this guy was like this, but retrospectively it's true that bluffs are really unnatural to find, and there are not that many. Yeah, I will not mind folding, even historically it's never folded here. The only thing is my range is really jack stands off, and I also thought that he might have king queen, and he should have king queen for value in this spot. Yep, just close this one. Okay, queen jack I call. Big blind bets, I called, turn is an 8, check check. And on the 5, something interesting here is I see too many players bluffing with sizing like half pot, 3/4, and that's actually not the sizing you should do. The reason is because he doesn't have too many a6, because check back the turn, you can have a lot of full house, and you need to add more big blinds to your bet when you have a lot of bluff in your Percy region, especially in the news pool, because people are gonna be in a really tough spots, and so going to be really uncomfortable, and in general they will tend to play the most passive option and they will fold. So if you come to these spots here, you can just overbet really big and most people will fold. And yes, you will not be balanced, yes you will overbluff, but you are actually going to win money. And if the guy is calling with kings, for example, it's okay, just tag him, don't bluff him in this situation, and start to value bet really thinly with big overbet, and you will see that it's really pleasant when the guy calls you with nothing and you free spot only a top pair here. So yeah, I decided to check back, which I don't like. I think I should bluff this end. The reason why I check back in game is because I think when he uses sizing, so especially against traditional player, it's a bit more polar. Probably he has less queens in the 2 big blind size, but not even sure. But yeah, here we should just bluff with king jack. I think my check is a mistake. He checked back with jack 10. The reason why we could check this is if, for example, I think it's actually a better bluff than check exploitatively, even if this ends my check in theory. Yeah, I would have preferred to see me sizing up here, especially against a traditional player. Okay, we have 10-7 suited. You see to call. Check raise the flop. Turn is a pretty good card for me. I should bet between 2 third and 1 third. Maybe some people always sim the spots. You can tell me in the comment. I didn't sim this one. Yeah, I'm okay with the size. Now on the river, it's actually a pretty terrible run out. So you have 2 choices here. You can bet 10% or you can check. The reason why I don't like to bet 10% is because I'm gonna be in an awful spot river where I think people mostly on the bluff. So if I bet, I'll fold. But if I bet and one guy decided to raise instead of checking back when I check, I will lose a tremendous amount of EV, and I will lose way more EV compared to the EV I will gain if I use this sizing and this guy called me with king jack, for example. So in these scenarios, I actually prefer to check, not to induce. And so a lot of scenarios where actually checking is way better than 10% bet, because if you induce too much and you fold, it's going to cost you money. And you might say, yeah, but if you bluff too much, then I should call. Yeah, but you can't know that. And if the guy is not bluffing the 10% pot bet and he raises and you call, you're losing a lot of money. So in average, yes, some players in the population will win money against me in bluffs when I bet 10%. And that's why I prefer to check here. And I bet 1 blind, which I really don't like. I think the only reason why I did this is to let him raise the ace of hearts and do a big bluffs, because I'm actually blocking the straight flush. And now I can have king 10, 10, 8 suited. I can also have 6s, 9s. And depending on sizing, I plan to raise. So I can let him raise and after put the a6 or 13 in the top spot. But Again, I don't think I really need this, okay? But yeah, that's a funny move. Especially the one blind, I mean, it's so inducing. I really like to play. So yeah, the plan was actually to jam in this spot, but if you don't plan to bet free bets, you should play this as a check. And he called me with 10 jack. You win against nothing here. Not gonna even value bet jack 8 this size, so should bluff this. Especially because he's blocking some full houses. So we're in 2k this guy is the recreational player. This guy is out, decided to call. You can clearly call this end, especially if the fish is playing loose. Okay, this guy bets small. I think here you have a premium raise. Super easy for him to bet everything, and he shouldn't. Free ways in position players close to never range betting because he's against 2 ranges. And he has less fold equity, so less instance to bet in this spot. So I don't see any balls. You don't see why when you see bet in position, probably really few of them. So I decided to raise with my end here. I'm actually okay with the raise, and I think you should raise a bit more the heart region compared to diamond region, for example, because you unblock the cold fold, and I think you prefer to check call ends that has stronger equity. Here's it to call. The turn is a jack, and now I think we should just go for a triple. I have better ends actually. If I have 6-7, it's a better end. Of course it's a better end, but if I have 6-5 suited, for example, it's a better end. But I just randomized to go for this. Again, you shouldn't have bet this, bluff this all the time, but this time I decided to go for it. I bet, and on the river, the 5, it's actually a great card for me right now. I don't think in 2k he will see me on less bluffs, because he knows that if I come here with 6-5, I will jam. So the only thing here you need to be careful about is your frequencies. And I will have ends like a7 suited, 7-8, 7-6, pocket freezer will play the same way also. But you should be careful, because if you start bluffing too much and he calls, it will be disastrous for the EV. So when I don't know if his spots will be on the bluff, I'll just randomize. And on the river here, you should randomize again. Problem I see in mistakes players and also in a lot of high-stakes players is actually, so bluffing the turn, they're always bluffing the river. But man, if you start doing this, just fold the turn or directly if you want to fold the river. And there are so many spots where you can just save a lot of money by not calling the turn, because you know that he's always going to fire the river. I'm not gonna say that when it's a better turn plus the river, you should always call and call. But if you think he will underbluff the river and he's always going to bet the turn plus the river, you should fold directly on the turn. This time I decided to go for an all-in, so obviously 6-5 is way better. So I remember in game I decided I will randomize 6-5, 5-4, but I think it's better to just take pure 6-5 and not taking 5-4 in the bluff on the river. Anyway, I decided to go for this and he fold quickly, and we took the pots. The pot is ace queen 3, 2 tones. You are not playing with small bet anymore. Because you have less ends that have incentives to small bet on a suited board compared to if it's not suited. And the reason is because when you bet small, the equity of your hand is not going to be the same on the turn, and when there is 2 spade, you decrease too much your equity in the betting line when the 3rd spade comes, and that's why you don't have small bet on suited board. But anyway, it's a small detail. I decided to check this back. I think it's a poor effort to play with the pot size, but it's okay to overbet. And this time I'm not sure we're against a reg. There's a lot of regs playing against the stack depth, but indeed here we are against a recreational player. So against a recreational player, you have 2 strategies here. You have the bet small, check call, because you're bluffing too much, close to every sizing when you bet the flop, and check the turn is a prop the river. You can also bet small. I think I will bet small if this guy doesn't have 52 VPAP, because I think here he's way too loose in his call in the big blind, so I don't want to make him fall 7-6, just want to let him bluff, so I prefer to check. And now on the turn, check back. His range is pretty weak, but I'm not sure we have to check 2 pairs here. I don't see why it will make sense. I mean, he's really weak and we know he has a hand like can bluff the river, but in general, profile doesn't bluff 7-6 on the turn, on the same not bluffs the river. That's not the case all the time, that's the case often. There's a go for a big sizing here, and he called, the river is a 7. And now I think we should take money out of the main region. From me is a queen or a 10. Even if I block them, I think a6 betting on the turn super often. And in terms of sizing, I think I can just go for half pots or a bit bigger. Yeah, it's slightly too big, but with his VPAP, I think it's fine. I would prefer to bet something like 7.8, 7.9, and he folded in this end. We have Jack 7 in the lean pots. I decided to lead directly. It's something people don't do enough. The guy is 52 VPAP. He can defend against this. And if you bet on the flop, I can't really call without information. So I just bet big here. What's going to happen if we see strong range is either going to raise me on the flop, or when I check the turn, call the flop, he's going to bet from himself. So when I bet big, check, I can bluff the river, and when he fold on the flop, I win the pot. So I would prefer to play this as a lead, and it always depends on the VPAP of the guy pre-flop. If he has 20 VPAP, I don't want to lead. If he has 50% VPAP, I want to lead. Okay, so he call, turns, we follow the plan, we check. The reason is because I'm not saying his range is stronger, but I think most players will just play 6-6 as a check back. And if you bet small, I can check raise or check call lead. And if you bet big, I can fold, because I think his main value region will be in the big sizing. And most range that will fold against triple barrel or hands that will fold against bet check bets. So the benefits of bet check bets is to let him bet the value region on the turn, so I have more fold equity on the river. I don't isolate myself against stronger range when I bet the turn plus the river. So I check, and now it's perfect card to bluff. He doesn't have too many to G6. So I think here we should size really, really big. He's gonna fall in like ace 10, ace queen, ace king, ace jack, king queen, etc. So you need to bluff all the time. So I don't like my check. I think it's definitely a mistake. I think you should bluff. I don't know why this need to check. Maybe he was really calling station. I don't know why. But you should always bet here. Something like 15, and he will just fold way too much. Yeah, he has king 10. I really don't know why I checked this one. I like to show this one because it shows you that you can think a lot when you work on your game, but sometimes you have decision in game, you don't know why you did them. And this is clearly a mistake. Like, I should always bet the river. Okay, pocket fours, open. Boss jack 10 nines could ends to be in the 3-barreled region, because you unblock the ends are going to call, fold. So a lot of people are taking king x, queen x, 9x, but it's okay also to take a pocket fours. And why you want to take pocket fours compared to 5-6 off is because when you have pocket fours, you have 2 outs towards making nuts, compared to when you have 5-6, you're close to 0 out. But this end can check back too, and we're against reactional players. The same actually. Okay, check back, interesting. And on the turn, so check, and on the 4, I think this is a check back, but sometimes here, if I really focus on one specific fish, I will check a lot his timing, because a lot of them, for example, are going to think about it in the river and value bet a second pair or third pair, for example. And if I see this, I note this directly, because I know that in another spot, when he snap check, he will be way more a6 oriented, and then I can value bet the river for 1 blind. Here, if I check by probably because I didn't have any information. So I'm okay with the check back here. And he showed me ace king off. Okay. Pocket 5, check call. You're always going to raise in these spots, and the trickle sizing when you play low jack and big blind is, I need to check the solver, but I think it's 10x. So my size is fine. I can just do a bit bigger. I can do something like, probably not 10x, but like something like 11. So I think a bit more appropriate. It's really a good board to raise, especially if you play lower stakes, even mistakes, because people didn't defend enough this board. I don't call enough the ball way suited region. And also a mistake a lot of people are doing, and you can not lock the range and see how it changes the strategy on turn, is people are calling you in like ace 7, for example, and they're folding kings. But actually, it's the opposite you should do. And if you open the solver, you will see the opposite. I didn't see in the end, but I walked enough on the situation to know here that actually why kings is a better call compared to ace 7. It's really simple. It's not because 7x is blocking bluffs. It's actually the same when you have ace jack. Pocket kings makes more money against compared to ace jack. Because my range is really polar, I'm gonna raise 2 pair plus here. Maybe ends like ace queen. You want to have hands and have enough equity against the polar region. And when you have 2 pairs and he has his jack, he has some outs. But when you have kings, you play the same outs. If he has ace jack and I have ace 5, for example, he played 8, he played the jack. Okay, that's 5 outs. But when you have kings and you have ace 5, I play 3 8s and I play 2 kings. You see? So when he has kings, he has 5 outs. And ace jack is draw dead against 5 and 8s, and kings have equity. So that's why solvers are calling more pocket pairs than a6. And people, even in a6, do these mistakes of calling too much a6 and calling enough pocket pairs. And if it does that, your strategy on the turn is slightly different. and you use slightly different sizing, but not going to enter too much into the details because it's gonna be quite boring. Okay, turn is the 10. I decided to check here. I think you should randomize, and that's why I checked this time. I think it's better to bet. I think people are a bit too sticky with an ace. If I bet big, he should fold most of his a6. He doesn't need to defend them. And a lot of people, I think, going to be a bit too curious. In terms of bluffs here, you want to have like a 5, or you might even raise an 8 in this sizing on the flop if it's quite unnatural. And you might have hands like 6-7, 6-9, but mainly it's going to be the 5x region. And sometimes, I don't think it's the case in this sense, but in this type of hands, you can actually take some a6 in the big size, like just a merge a6. It's quite funny. As to put more in different sense, like pocket pairs. Because if you have a7s and his call with jacks is less great compared to if you have no merchant, but you don't need to do that, and even in 200k NL, it's not really important. So yeah, I check, but I think in-game you should bet if you play lower stakes, and I think I should have bet, but I randomize. You check back, and the reason also is because I think people are not going to put a lot of pressure against my check raise, check calling range in the spots. So I'm not going to win the EV I should win in the solver because people are going to play differently here. The river I jump. I'm okay. I'm gonna play my bluff the same way. I'm gonna check a lot in general on the turn because if it's folding too much, doesn't mean you should bluff too much. Because I think also if I can check back on the turn too much makes my bluff better in this line, but if you check back too much on the turn, should play my value in the betting line on the turn. I think on the river he decided to fold. Yeah, so I'm fine with the line. I think betting the turn is better, and but I'm fine randomizing here. It will help me having this type of hands. And the bluff now on the river comes mainly from the 5x region, or you can just text the end like 6-4 suited, for example. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna overbluff this spot, so I'm really happy to see we will value in finally. And yeah, he decided to fold. That's interesting. Okay, Jack 9 here, I opened. Call, so we are against a recreational player. I remember the first time I see him, he was jamming any to pre-flop. The second time I see him, he was playing like you lose. The third time I see him, he was playing really, really tight. Let's see his stats, but he was really tight. No, he was loose at this time. Okay, interesting. But it's not the time where he was jamming any two pre-flop. Bet small on the flop, I'm fine. Turn a check back. On the river now, I think it's a tight guy. The check, especially when it's a check fast. I don't remember if it's a check fast. If he checked fast here, you should jump. And I know it's really unintuitive to jump in these spots, but there are two main scenarios here. The first scenario is he's calling everything. So like he's bluffing every hand that beats you. He's bluffing every hand that are worse than your hand. Okay, and he's calling everything when you bet. That's the first scenario. Second scenario is he's folding everything because flush bet, the two pairs bet. So when he check, he's folding all the time. And third scenario, he might have some flushes, but when he has a hand like 10x, he folds. And here, the first scenario is actually really rare. I don't think people is calling ace jack or calling ace jack all the time. It's really rare profile will do it. But in the subpopulation of this kind of profile, I don't think it's going to happen. So it's either he has flushes, but he also have some folds. So UAV is not that bad when you overbet. Or he fold range and UAV is 8.5. And because this is the two main scenarios, you're actually going in average making money by jamming these spots. That's why I no. Why did I check back? This is so bad. Yeah, no, this is always a jam. If I checked to my defense and he showed king 8, maybe I had some information about him having timing tells or him not falling in off the river. Because usually it's a spot I bluff all the time. But yeah, maybe I had information. I always say that because usually I bluff. Okay. H9, so we are in incognito table. Okay, with small on the flop. He raise, call, check, check. I think he doesn't have too many 10x, doesn't have too many flushes. I think his range is mainly two pairs and jack x, so we need to target them, and we need to bet 10. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, call with jack 8. Lucky turn. Okay, open, call. Check, bet. So when I check range and I check range in this spot, you shouldn't play too many small bets. You should mainly play with a polar range. Because when I range check, the equity of my range is stronger compared to if I use the check and I have bet. So he should actually play with more check. It's not gonna be the case. If it's not the case, I check raise more, I check call more. Okay, you can still use it in the solver. This time I set it to check call. Okay, turn is a 5 and he check back. And on the 10 here, I think my hand is good to bluff. So against your range bet, I will call in like 5, 6, 6, 7. It's really what you should do. So I will have bluffs like 6, 7, 7, 8. But in general, he's not betting too much with a king that played as a check on the turn. So I'm fine with the bluff, and I think you should bluff. And in terms of sizing, I think this hand is more appropriating to the overbet. You should probably overbet 3/4 and block mainly. I might do some mistakes, I didn't see him the end, so if you see him then you can tell me in the comment. But yeah, I like to play this hand as an overbet, and I don't like my size. I should just bet 14 here. Come with king 10. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't like my size. Should overbet more often. Okay, king 9. You don't place this to check raise because the queen's a triple out for you. So you play with all the hands. And he should play mainly with the big size. It's okay to use small bet, but the main size is pot here, around pot. And now on the river, my should overbet. And in terms of bluffs, I will have hands like... I mean, I have 9-8 suited, but I 3-bet pre-flop often. So I have like 9-7, 8-7. I have like the ace-4 suited region. Yeah, king 9 is always a bluff here. Okay, now I should bluff this in. The only reason why I don't bluff is because I have an information on his timing. He's playing extremely fast. I'm gonna flute his pseudo. I'm gonna not show his nickname in the editing. It's probably the only reason. Is I thought he had a timing tell, so I didn't value bet. I didn't bluff because otherwise the same is just a bluff here. Okay, same regular, check call, you can check raise also. Okay, this is a check, you beat enough hands here, and you have a good check raise here if he bets. He bet big, you can do both, I think. Just the problem is, this hand is not the best. SI is way better because you unlock way more bluffs. For example, if you have ace-5, it's actually better because the 5 is always going to bet the turn often. If you have like 5-4, 5-7. If you have 6-7, I block them. Also, I block the 6-5, for example. So, pocket 5 might play this way. So, I think king queen is a fold. Yeah, I'm okay. If somebody wants to sim it, I will do it anyway after the video. Yep. So, I'll defend all the hands. Okay. Ace-4 facing a check. Oh, I remember this hand is really painful. You should play pot. Or overbets. You should mainly play overbet. You should mainly play overbet. The reason is because the only range that I want to bet here is really strong hand in his shoes and in my shoes. So it's gonna be the two main size. You can play with small bet also, but main size will be a big here. And when he checks, I'm gonna play with a check with my hand. I'm gonna overbet all the hands. He overbets really big. Mine is always a call. So I sim this hand. I think he was raising some single a6 with a diamond, which I find pretty cool. And it sounds like also weird in it raised, but I don't remember. Super. Yeah, the river came at 10. He bet. I think it's a good i6 regular, which is playing well. I should just call this all the time. It's just way too exploitable to fold. But I fold, and the reason why I fold is because I timed out. It's the only reason. And you should be careful not to time out. I mean, it's like a dumb advice, but that costs me a lot of money. We'll never know what he had, but yeah, I should call. He will find the bluff. He will find the 4x overbet on the turn. Might even maybe overbet or overbluff a bit this spot. Yes, so I should have called with ace-4. I'm not betting any value hands because I'm not gonna bet like this with king 8. I think just ace-4 is too strong to fold, especially with the ace of diamond, because if he has then like 6-4. 5-4 of diamond, you can completely play this way. Yeah, this time I will not timeouts. And we are going to review the last hand of the session that I found really, really interesting. It's then I played in Anonymous table. I played, I think, it 1 month ago, and I remember my action, one I did. So I 3-bet pre-flop, and on the flop, I actually 2-bet small. That's not typical sizing here. Should play with higher c-bet, even if it's fine to bet small. And I'm gonna bet small here because nobody knows the full exploitation of a range bet in 3-bet pot here. I'm not going even to tell you this in video because I want to continue doing it. But here in this situation, it's really tough to counter it well, even in ace-x. So I really prefer to one for range here. And this, the only branch of the game tree I'm going to simplify. It's the only region in poker where I really simplify my strategy and I don't choose complex strategy. And I really advise you to do the same, because it's easier to execute and probably even higher EVs than check here. He called and turn I check. The reason why I checked is because, yes, you might say, yeah, you have aces. You block the calls also. I mean, you block the folds. So he has less hands like a6 that might bet. So for example, if I have aces with a diamond, because I unblocked the a6 of clubs, spade and heart, for example, but if I have like ace diamond, ace of heart, the reason why I will actually check back more in with the ace of diamonds, he will actually bluff more of them. He will bluff more the ace of clubs, ace of spade, or ace of heart on the river, because they float more than the ace of diamond. The reason why I check is because before calling on the flop, he tanked for 15 seconds. And the reason why is because, and when he tanked for 15 seconds, and we are in the morning, where there are not a lot of tables available, I think he just have a weekend that decided to check call and was easy to check raise. And the number of spots where people have timing tail is mind-blowing. So that will probably require a whole video. But here you should be careful about two things. The first, you might be wrong, and don't base your decisions on timing tail. It should always be your decision first, and after maybe the timing tail can probably change your decision, or at least you can put in your thought process the fact you saw timing tail. The first thing. The second thing is you need to verify that he does not playing a lot tail of table, because if your opponent is playing 12 table, he's going to have timing tail, but it doesn't mean he has a weekend in the spot. The third thing is when people snap check, it 100% means they have timing tail, because if you snap check a hand, that means in these spots they might not snap check hands that are more complicated to play, and I already saw that into these players. So here my strategy is going to change completely because of this timing. I'm going to check my overpairs, even if I have queens, because it's either he has a strong hand that prefer to call, and I'm gonna lose my stack anyway, or he has a weak hand, so I have no interest to bet, because I think when he has 6-5 or pocket 5, he's going to call way more faster. So it changes his range completely, but you can't analyze the timing directly with only one occurrence. You need to know exactly that your players, that your opponent might have timing tail, otherwise you're going to lose money. Because if here I don't see this guy not timing before and I say, okay, he tank call, I'm gonna play this more as a check, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's playing too many table, so your analysis of the timing tail is wrong here. Anyway, now he bet small and I decided to jump. I was not so sure about me to like click this spot and call the all-in, for example, but yeah, I decided to jump here and he fold. And when I'm in bluff, you might say, oh, that's great, he also can barrel. No. Why? Because if I know he has a worse hand super often, I can just check and let him bluff. That will be better. Okay? So even my bluffs, I will not even put my bluff in the turn barrel. Maybe my best bluffs, okay, but otherwise I will just play this as a check. Okay, and so I bet and I jump before. So that's gonna be the last end of this session review. I hope you like it. If you like this type of format, tell me. And if you like my videos, tell me also, because otherwise I would just not do video. Doing it for you. Bye guys.